you.
Welcome to the Sporting Limerick podcast, the soccer podcast this evening, joined by our regular contributors, Jason and Noel O'Connor. Jason, to start with yourself, big week, big excitement. We'll refrain from talking about the Treaty United and Bray game for a few moments, and we'll talk about the Treaty United pre-season campaign. 2 draws, 1 win, obviously 2 games against Athlone, 1 against Waterford. Do you see signs of encouragement over the 3 games, results-wise, and obviously maybe looking at the game on Saturday, Jason?
Oh, definitely, Adrian. I really enjoyed Saturday's game, and big improvement from the previous week against Athlone. As we pointed out, it would be different opposition than it was as regards Athlone's starting 11, and they were a lot stronger on paper, and Treaty were a lot stronger on the pitch, in my opinion. So great credit to the players, great credit to Tommy. Positive thing for me, Adrian, I suppose, overall, would be that, the units looked a lot more solid. The defensive unit with Anto O'Donnell in there, next to Sean Gearns, Mark Ludden, obviously, in at fullback, and pushing Clyde O'Connell into the middle with Jack Lynch. Really steadied things up and made Treaty, I should say, very, very solid down the middle. And started on the front foot. Obviously, Charlie Fleming as well at right back looks very, very comfortable. But they started on the front foot, raced into a 2-goal lead, and good value for it, Adrian. Could have been a couple more even based on chances. But the players we've been looking at over the last number of weeks, the Sean McSweeney's, the Jack Lynch's, really stood up to the plate, I felt. It looks like Jack is going to be captain, and hopefully he is, because he kind of mirrors, I suppose, everything I'd want out of a senior soccer team in Limerick starting out. Great attitude, brave, as I said last week, and willing to get on the ball, willing to put in tackles, and that stuff is infectious, Adrian, and it spread through the team. You could see him in the second half. I was looking for a change in approach over the last couple of weeks, and we saw it last Saturday. First half, very much on the front foot, went and got a couple of goals. Obviously knew they were going to run out of steam a little bit in the second half, and expected Athlone to dominate possession, which they did. But let's be honest, Athlone scored from a penalty kick just on half-time and didn't manage to break Treaty down. So much positivity after that performance, Adrian, and really looking forward now to the league fair.
Yeah, Noel, Jason alluded to the fact that maybe you saw 2 different sides to the performance. Obviously, in the first half, you saw a bit of creativity. Treaty could have had the extra couple of goals, like you mentioned, through Charlie Fleming's chance, and Sean McSweeney had another chance. In the second half, when it was more backs to the wall, you did see a lot of committed defending, and even during times of tiredness, quite a decent shape. Were you happy with the fact that there was both facets of the game were on show on Saturday?
Yeah, I think we're talking about the pre-season as a whole. I suppose under the circumstances, it could hardly have gone much better. You get your win a week out from your first game. As Jason said, a great start. Very positive, from the sideline as a manager, you're looking to see, who's in form. You want players just to, to start playing themselves into a bit of form. And I thought Mark Ludden looked really, really solid. He's a real sign, and he's positional play, his coolness, his long throws, his passing, the way he supports the wide player, really, really good. We didn't mention the keepers, but I thought Ty Grine, he came for a couple of crosses, which is great to see. And as a defender, you do love to see that. And people might say, well, he's not the tallest guy, but he certainly came through a few bodies a few times and collected the ball. 2 centre halves did very well. I have a small reservation there in terms of their experience, that they haven't really played. I thought maybe even one of the midfield 2 maybe in there in terms of the amount of game time they have in the League of Ireland in comparison to the 2 lads that were there. Jason mentioned Clyde and Jack. He's spot on about Jack as well in the reports I'm getting from training. He's the exact same in training. He's really good in training, very, very loud, getting on the ball, driving people on. And look, that's really, really important. Thought Clyde O'Connell was excellent last week. Obviously, Coltrane went off early. It was hard to make a judgment. There wasn't a whole lot in the wide areas, I thought. I thought Sean McSweeney was excellent. Showed a really bit of form. Really, really smart goal, quick turn, smart goal. And his overall play was good. And in fairness to Kieran Hanlon, worked really hard, always got behind the ball when they were out of possession. And certainly is a kind of a character there. I think he seems to stand out in the games I've watched. He's always there or thereabouts where the action is. So overall, it was very, very good.
Yeah, Jason. Noel mentioned there that Kieran Hanlon is always around where the action is, and I did mention that to Tommy, and Tommy always uses the word you need a few bold characters in the team in League of Ireland as well. You can't have choir boys in any team, but before we get on to anything else, we'll say Tommy did say that Dean George looks unlikely to play against Bray on Sunday through injury. And with obviously Adam Foley injured, Matt McKevitt only coming up to speed, you'll need the right service. Kieran Hanlon will probably be starting, and you'll need the right service, and you'll need a performance for at least the 60-minute mark from him on Sunday in terms of his hold-up play.
You will, Adrian. As you know, I know Kieran very well, and he's local to the area and is a great character. And I suppose, look, anytime we watched him in the past, he was always a handful for defenders. He puts himself about, he uses his size and his strength. He can hold up the ball well, and he's not given enough credit, I suppose, at times for how technically good he is, because he is technically very good with the ball at his feet. You rightly said he's still not up to 100% fitness. So if we see Kieran for 55, 60 minutes against Bray, I think we'll be doing well. Limerick need to play to, or Treacy, I should say, need to play to his strengths. Kieran doesn't want the ball in the channel chasing after it. He'll need the ball to his feet. He'll make it difficult for defenders, as I said, and he'll look to link up with Sean McSweeney, but it'll be very important that Sean McSweeney goes forward instead of back against Bray with Kieran up front, because what Dean George will give you is intelligent runs off the ball into channels, and Kieran at the moment won't be able to give you that. So Treaty will be looking for more intricate play, I'd imagine, up to Hanlon's feet, back in then to McSweeney. And where can we play from there? Noel mentioned the wide players. They're going to be important. Joel Coltrane was a slight calf strain, I believe. So we're hopeful that he'll be fit, because he showed good promise in pre-season. Edward McCarthy, while not setting the world alight, uses the ball very well, Adrian. You don't see him give away the ball too often now. He's not a natural winger. So that will explain a lot of the stuff that he could be criticised for, but he's a young player. He's learning the game, and he'll be an asset to Treaty going forward as well. But sitting Clyde O'Connell in front of the back four with Jack Lynch, that'll be the same game plan for me. Treaty will be good fitness-wise for probably 60 minutes. They'll need to be competitive in that time and give themselves something to hold on to, Adrian. That's going to be important, because if you're in the position Treaty are in and knowing they're going to run out of steam, and it's important that you don't go a goal or two behind, because when you run out of steam, then things become even more difficult for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Noel, in terms of Bray, 3 o'clock Sunday, Bray away. If you were to pick a fixture, being a new team coming into the league, I know we've mentioned that Galway and Shelburne obviously very strong as well, but it would be one of the toughest opponents they could have asked for on the first game of the season.
Yeah, so it would be remiss of us not to mention now that Clyde O'Connell is actually suspended for Sunday's game.
Yeah,
which was a bit of a shock. It was late last night that I heard it. Obviously, must have been a bit of a shock to the management as well. The fact that they played him for the full match last week, which would suggest that it was something that they hadn't realised was happening.
Tommy actually said he was unaware, Noel, of it actually until last night. He said he wouldn't have played him at all, and he would have brought Matt Keane down from Kerry on the day if he had known.
Yeah, so look, I mean that is certainly a body blow, and particularly, you obviously are going to get suspensions during the year, but you want everything to be right for the first game. We already said that, look, he's been probably arguably their strongest player in the preseason games, and he certainly is going to be a loss. But it does look like that Matt Keane is going to go in there. Probably a bit surprising he wasn't there last week anyway, because if you think about it, logically, I think if any of the four, in terms of the two holding midfielders or the two centre halves, would have been injured either this week or even during the game against Bray, it's highly likely that if it is a centre half, either Jack or Clyde would notionally have gone back as centre half, and Matt Keane would have come on anyway. So just a bit surprising that he wasn't used last week even for a half an hour. But look, he's a fit guy. He's very disciplined. He's had a fairly strong junior career, and it's an opportunity for him as well. But in terms of Bray, I think you're spot on. They're very, very strong. They've obviously been building for a couple of years. There's a bit of stability there after a couple of years of small bit of instability, I suppose. They have some very experienced players, the likes of Aaron Barry, who was with Derry for 5 years, went down to Cork. Conor Clifford, who obviously, the Limerick fans would be familiar with. Gary Shaw up front. Brian Maher, the under-21 keeper, who's is one of the reasons why the game has switched to Sunday. And they have a very strong loanee, if you like, from Shamrock Rovers, Brandon Kavanagh, who's probably 30 or 40 games played in the Premier League. So certainly strong. I'd say they're looking at, challenging this year for the league, and they're at home. I think they'll be looking for a very strong performance. I think if Treaty are to get into now with this game, they'll be doing very well now. The converse to that is you're often better off to meet these good sides early in the league, where, if you like, they haven't found their full feet or they're not in full flow. And it is certainly an opportunity for Treaty. If things aren't going right for Bray, or as Jason said, if Treaty, if they get an early goal and they've something to hold on to, and that they can go into the last 10 or 15 minutes with either still level in the match or maybe a goal ahead, well, then they've a real chance of maybe taking something out of the game. And I do think that a point there on Sunday would be a really great result for Treaty and a great start for them.
Yeah, Jason, Noel mentioned there a couple of the key players, and a few of the key players. There's been massive amounts made of Darren Creevan. He's a player that signed for Bray from Malahide. He seems to have had a really strong pre-season in midfield. You also have Conor Clifford and Brandon Kavanagh in that area, as Noel said, which probably makes the loss of Clyde O'Connell even more profound on Sunday as well. If you were to look at it, I asked Tommy earlier on, would he be going for a more defensive approach going into it? Now, he did mention that you have to go for games, while also mentioning that you have to know when to go for games. But if you're looking at the team now that's going to be out there on Sunday, you'd imagine there is definitely going to be a more cautious approach throughout.
I think there has to be, Adrian, and Noel mentioned obviously Brandon Kavanagh, and Bray also got Sean Callan and Stephen Kinsella and Cian Clark as well from Shamrock Rovers. So they've strengthened, and as we know, they just missed out last year on promotion. So they'll be looking to go one better. They've had great pre-season form. Let's be honest, we draw that 4-1, drew with Rovers and drew with Derry, and only lost by a late goal against Bows. That's their only defeat in pre-season. 3-3 with UCD as well. Noel mentioned Gary Shaw. He's going to be a handful for every first division defence. And Noel mentioned maybe the experience of the Treaty two centre backs, and that could be an issue. It could be an issue on Sunday. It really could. To answer your question, Adrian, yeah, they'll need to be cautious, and I don't want to sound like the broken record, but this could be the game for 5 at the back and 2 up front, which would help Kieran Hanlon, I suppose, if he's not at his mobilist. And the 5 at the back, the 3 centre backs, could provide a little bit of extra cover. It's doubtful Tommy will ever venture from variations of 4-3-3, but within that this Sunday, it's going to be difficult, and they'll need to be cautious. And if they're not, the result could go against them.
Yeah, no, it's the fact that you said there that it's better to play the bigger sides at times earlier in the season. You also have the Carlisle grounds. It's quite a tight pitch, Noel, in terms of it seems to get congested in the middle at times. It's not very wide. And with the likes of Kieran Hanlon, like Jason just said, maybe that will suit Treaty on Sunday.
I think there's no doubt it'll suit him. I think the tighter pitch will definitely suit him, particularly with the fitness issues that are there. I think they will become a bit defensive anyway. You even saw it last week. Actually, we touched on it earlier on, but it's not so much even sometimes a fitness issue, but it's a psychological thing that you kind of you start to sit back and sit a bit deeper. And you saw that last Saturday, albeit with Treaty, minding a lead, if you like. I'm not so sure it was just pure physical tiredness. The closer you get to the finish, and if you have something to hold on to, it's a kind of a natural thing for a team to get deeper and deeper. So I think that could certainly happen on Sunday.
Yeah, Jason, I know Tommy certainly might be playing mind games, but he wasn't very confident about Joel Custrain making the game on Sunday either. And after talking to Joel, he said he's been struggling with this knock for the last couple of weeks. That would be a massive blow on top of the Clyde O'Connell blow, because he scored the first ever goal, and Clyde also scored. So you're after missing 2 or 3 goal scorers from pre-season into the game. Is that the biggest worry, Jason? Like you said, Ed McCarthy is not an out-and-out winger. In the game itself, we didn't seem to see a lot of our wingers in the game on Saturday either. Would that be probably our biggest weakness going into this game on Sunday? And obviously maybe another reason why the tight pitch might suit us as well.
Yeah, Joel would be a big loss in my opinion. He, in the 3 pre-season games, the Waterford game and the 2 against Athlone, he's one that jumps out at me that's really, really comfortable at this level. He looks confident, looks happy to take the ball and take people on. And like you said, he's a goal to his name. I wasn't aware myself that Clyde O'Connell is ineligible for Sunday. And he's going to be a huge, huge loss for his size alone in the middle of the park, or if he was employed at centre-back. Very big physically and tough in the tackle, as we know. So he will be a loss. There's no doubt about it. And you're discussing Matt Keane there. Different in stature, to Clyde. And if Bray, look, if they want to go direct down on top first with someone like Gary Shaw, who's a target player, it's going to cause us problems, and stopping that ball coming into Gary Shaw will need to be fixed very, very quickly on Sunday. The lack of wingers, even though Tommy has signed a few, the lack, I suppose, of impact from the wide areas has been obvious in pre-season, Adrian. And look, if you're struggling in them areas, why not go extra centre back, an extra player up top, and be really, really strong down the middle and compact. But look, it's going to be difficult Sunday. It really is. It'll be difficult for everyone going to Bray looking for a result. They're going to be in the playoffs. They're going to be challenging. And we rightly accept Treaty are a good bit off that jet. But it'll tell us where they're at, Adrian, that's for sure.
Yeah, we'll certainly find out soon enough how close you think they'll be to promotion, Jason. But we also have Noel. You mentioned Mark Ludden yourself, and I was quite impressed by him because his reading of the game was good, Noel, and he seems to know exactly when he can venture forward, when he needs to be back, when he needs to be covering. That was quite obvious. Charlie Fleming had a good 50-minute spell. He seemed to tire a bit quite badly after that and was removed. But you mentioned Jack Lynch and the fact that Jack Lynch has been vocal on the pitch and in training, but you also need the likes of these guys like Charlie Fleming and Mark Ludden, who've been around the league now for a while, to lead. They might not be the most vocal maybe, but they need to lead by example on games, especially like Sunday as well, when you're going to be possibly on the back foot at times.
Yeah, and I think Mark Ludden has already shown that he'll lead by example, even though he isn't the loudest. But as I said, I mean, I thought his performance was really good. I'm sure that John Caulfield is disappointed that he couldn't, land him on a full-time contract. I think he's going to be a big loss to Galway. Charlie Fleming, I suppose I have to say, he came out with a piece there a few weeks ago about saying how he hadn't been given a chance in Cork and that, and I thought that he was better off not to say anything at all. And, he hasn't proven anything yet in terms of that Cork were wrong not to give him a chance. So I just felt that he was better off just to keep his mouth shut and maybe get on the pitch and let his football do the talk and his defending do the talk, and in the same way has Mark Ludden. So for me, the jury's out a little bit about him. I watched him last week and I didn't see him doing a whole lot wrong, but I said, need to see this guy a few more times and maybe see if, if if he's capable of making a big impact. But he'll certainly probably be a busy guy on Sunday if Brandon Kavanagh plays on the left. It'll probably be his biggest test so far. So it'll be interesting to see how he copes.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jason, we also have the new streaming service for both divisions now, and the Women's National League this year, the Watch League of Ireland streaming for the Premier Division, and obviously the League of Ireland TV now will be for the First Division, which will be using the artificial intelligence cameras. It's a great positive for the league, because as I mentioned earlier on to a couple of people, maybe it'll even give the opportunity to people who wouldn't venture to the likes of a Markets Field or Talca Park or that, and it gives the league that exposure and nothing but positive. And hopefully the stream will show that, and hopefully it's of a decent quality as well this weekend.
Well, we saw, I suppose, last Saturday the quality of the Sport Limerick stream, Adrian. It was first class, and talking to some of the fans during the week, they were very impressed with it. So I suppose that's the level. That's what people be expecting. It's our only way of watching games, I suppose, at the moment for real supporters. So that's a new. And you rightly said that. Obviously, hopefully, when COVID is lifted, that'll have whetted the appetite for supporters, and they'll get out and support the team when they're allowed. But it's all about promoting the league, Adrian. It's all positive steps. And we saw and listened to, I should say, Con Murray last week on Live 95 about the new shirt sponsor and about Trees being competitive. And there's a real competitive feel, I think, about the First Division, especially this year. And the streaming only adds to that. So it's really whetting my appetite, Adrian. I can't wait to see the kickoff on Sunday, and have local players to watch is fantastic.
Our boss Raphael Rocca will be very happy with your promotion of the Sport Limerick stream, Jason. Noel, there's on a different issue. I noticed a couple of weeks ago, and I will admit I haven't done my research on the situation, but the headlines were reading that a new FAI ruling will prevent the likes of Stuart Ashton and the likes of Adrian Carberry, men who are working for the FAI, like in a position maybe like Jason's, from actually managing League of Ireland football teams, maybe in a year or two down the line. I think it's in a year's time where it might come into effect. What did you make of that, if you had heard of it, and do you think it's a pity for that situation to arise?
Yeah, I did hear it all right, and I suppose I was a bit surprised the fact that certainly these guys have been around for a while, and I just think it's strange that they let them actually take up the posts and work for a year or two, and then decide to tell them that, well, you can't really do that. But I suppose that's kind of typical of some of the things that happen in the FAI, and I'm just wondering, is there another way around it? Is there a kind of a Dundalk solution to the problem, and appoint someone else as the manager, but still have those people involved and just give them a new title? So we'll have to watch this space. I noticed today in the Irish Independent that Wayne Rooney hasn't completed his A license yet, his UEFA license, but he's allowed managing the Championship in England. So it seems that the standards are a lot higher in the Electricity League than they are in the Championship in England. So who knew?
There doesn't seem to be any panic from Athlone or Cove yet. So you'd imagine there might be some way of getting around it, as you said, Noel. We'll probably turn our attention now. I'm just going to turn our attention maybe to the overall picture, and maybe do a couple of predictions for the league games in the First Division as a whole this week, Jason. And we'll start off with yourself, I suppose, and we'll start off with what you think will happen in the Bray and Treaty game. There's no other place to start, I suppose.
I think you can't look further than the home win, Adrian, as I have to take off my supporters hat and put on my analyst hat for a minute. And I think anything, I suppose, any type of result for Treaty would be unexpected. A performance is what supporters will be looking for. Bray, as I said, I tip for the playoffs. I think they'll certainly make the playoffs this year. Although it's a very, very competitive league, they'll want to hit the ground running. They're at home. They've had a lot stronger pre-season, played better opposition, scored plenty goals. They'll be in the mix for promotion, and nothing but a home win, unfortunately for me.
And on Jason as well, too, the big hitting game of the weekend. You'll have Galway hosting Shelbourne, the two heavyweights. Hard to predict, but if you were to predict, how do you think it'll go?
Yeah, look, very, very hard to predict, and I couldn't separate the two of them, I suppose, when I'm talking about someone to win the league, and look, we all know it's impossible to predict league winners before the league game has even kicked off, but we're giving our opinions. I don't want to be sitting on the fence too early, so I'm going to go for Galway.
Yeah, it's a brave enough call. I'm going to switch over to Noel now for this next one. Wexford and Cabinteely. Noel, where do you sit on this one? And hopefully, as Jason said, not in the fence.
No, I don't like sitting on the fence really, and I certainly won't sit in the fence for this one. And as always, the waves of positivity are flowing out of Wexford, and they're very hopeful of the season. I think it's not a bad match for them to start. And I'm going to tip them for a narrow victory on tomorrow night.
Narrow victory. And another club you were involved in will also have home advantage, Cork City against Cove Ramblers. I know that you both said that Cove Ramblers might be a team that people will underestimate yet again this year, Noel. But where do you see this Munster, this Cork derby going?
Yeah, as I said a couple of weeks ago, I think Cove are going to be really, really up for this game. It's a huge game for them, and I think they'll probably nick a draw. I can see that one ending up as a score draw after a feisty affair.
Yeah, I can imagine it would be. Jason, UCD host Athlone. I might have been a bit critical myself on co-commentary duty of Athlone last week and before that too, because there's been a lot of hype around Athlone, and they just haven't shown anything to suggest that they'll back up the hype so far in their pre-season anyway. And the body language, I thought, of some of the players wasn't particularly good. But again, they're going to UCD. UCD, in fairness, I know they normally lose players. They've lost two big players in terms of their centre-back, Josh Collins and Yo-Yo Maddy, but they've kept some big players from too and added a few like Sam Todd. It's going to be particularly difficult for Athlone, but where do you see the points going for UCD and Athlone there at Belfield?
That's a home win for me, Adrian. Athlone, as you said, disappointed in pre-season. I'm trying to be nice to my mates up there, but they have been disappointing. And the hype, I suppose, unfortunately for them, has only come from within, and maybe some of the reputations that they signed. But they were certainly poor on Saturday. Spoke with Graham Kane after it. He was very, very disappointed. They didn't win a game in pre-season, so yeah, UCD again for me. Look, they'll be in about the playoffs, Adrian. I'd expect them to start strong, and I'd expect them to pick up the 3 points.
And Noel, I haven't forgot about you. I can't, not ask you about the Bray and Treaty game as well, and what way you think this will go.
Yeah, listen, I'd be feeling the same as Jason. I think it's hard to look beyond a home win. You're hoping that, if it's maybe a 2-1 or 2-0 or 3-1, I think it won't be a disaster for Treaty. If they can keep themselves fairly intact in it and give a really good performance. But it's certainly hard to see anything other than a home victory for Bray on Sunday.
Preview.